Fighters of the 3rd Army Corps continue to destroy enemy positions in one of the FPV directions. The Kraken Unmanned Systems Regiment struck Russian equipment and Russian infantry. The video shows hits on camouflage tanks, BMPs, and other vehicles, as well as equipment with enemy personnel. Motorcycles, infantry, and forest belts and shelters came under attack. The Russian cities of Belgorod and Bryansk were plunged into darkness. What a beautiful word that is, plunged. Their local authorities reported a massive drone attack on energy facilities. After loud explosions, a total blackout began in the cities. In addition, on the morning of the previous day, the Russian capital was also under attack by unidentified drones. Airports were being closed en masse. Indeed, in some districts of Moscow, there were reports of falling debris. According to Mayor Sergei Sobyanin, the attack on Moscow began at around 11 a.m. and lasted until 4 p.m. During this time, he reported that supposedly 18 drones were shot down. But what about the figure of 120? Serhiy Bratchuk is joining our conversation, military expert and spokesperson for the Ukrainian Volunteer Army. Mr. Serhiy, can you hear us?
Glory to Ukraine, glory to the Defense Forces, greetings.
Glory to the heroes and glory as well to all the people who are bringing our victory closer. I always ask you to help us figure out the math because it's critically important for us. So look, Sobyanin claims that 13 drones were shot down. By the evening, that number turns into 18. A total of 120 were flying. The question is, where did all the rest go, the ones out of the 120 that were not shot down? But we remember that all of them were taken out. Seriously though, jokes aside, what does their presence mean for us? At least over 100, between 120 and 150 drones, were officially reported by the Russian authorities on Russian territory, and that's not even near the Ukrainian border.
First of all, I'd like to talk about the math. Everyone immediately remembers their school years. 13 is easy to change to 18. I think he's the biggest and the best. The representative of Russian air defense, Sergei Sobyanin, he knows how to do it. He remembered school and made the correction. If we speak more seriously, of course, we see these numbers, which are actually growing exponentially. The number of Ukrainian drones flying not only to the Moscow region and the Russian capital, but also to other regions in significant numbers. First of all, what would I pay attention to? Maybe not even the math, although I will talk about that too. We need to talk about the fact that these attacks, first of all, are indeed becoming more massive. Still, let's start with the math. First of all, on our side, our capabilities are growing here, although I agree with the previous colleague that we really need to scale up. That's a topic for a separate discussion. And in fact, distances. We see that distances are also very important. And now in this context, we can mention a well-known location, which I in particular call Ukhta. But there's one more most important point. And here, it's about that same Ukhta and about the Moscow region and Moscow itself. This is the fact that our drones today are not only capable of covering the necessary distances, they are also able to get through the air defense systems of the Russian capital in particular. I want to remind you that the Russian capital is not just guarded by some troops. There is a separate Moscow air defense district of the Russian Federation, which has existed since Soviet times. It's a distinct structure, an organization, an entity of its own, it deals exclusively with the airspace. And in fact, the density of air defense systems there is so high that it would seem impossible to get around it. But twice in history, this has already been accomplished. Well, first of all, there was Matthias Rust back in the day, but that was about the Soviet Union. As for Russian air defense systems, we can see that Ukrainian drones today are not just showing activity, they are able to fly through. And the question here is, what will be next? In other words, we're talking about the range of drones. First of all, we need to talk about strike drones that will deliver targeted strikes on various Russian facilities. And of course, distance matters too, because we're not calculating in a straight line anymore. Once again, I'll say it. We need to bypass the air defense systems of the Russian Federation. This is the math that, as with all the trends I'm mentioning, in my opinion, are the main factors in the events happening today. For now, they say 120. I think, first of all, there are more than that. And in fact, we expect that the number of these drones will continue to grow.
To understand just how bad their math and arithmetic really are, alongside the 120, another figure appeared, 170. This just shows the informational inconsistency about what exactly to lie about. We can see this with the energy blackouts and with issues concerning electricity and heat. The exact same thing is currently happening in several different Russian cities. Do you honestly believe that these widespread blackouts, freezing cold radiators, a total lack of electricity, or anything else similar to that could somehow significantly affect the complex military processes taking place in Russia today? Of course, in a positive way. Or, on the contrary, do you see it negatively, thinking they'll just put on their coats and go get mobilized into the army? I'm leading you to the question, when will Russia announce a mobilization?
Well, we really are helping the Russians. Don't be surprised, there's nothing paradoxical about this statement, because in fact we are returning Russians to their roots, to the environment, let's say, of existence that they are accustomed to. That means without electricity, without toilets, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, from a military point of view, why is this important? It's not just about us turning off that transformer, in Bryansk or in Belgorod and saying it's for a long time. We're talking about logistics here, specifically about the military-industrial complex and military logistics. Both Bryansk and Belgorod regions are logistical hubs that have a direct impact on the front lines because resources either pass through them or originate from them and are sent directly to various locations at the front. Here, I'll even try to draw some parallels with the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhzhia regions, and of course, Crimea, our own. These are also hubs, and there too, logistics are deteriorating, directly affecting the front lines. Because you can see this is what we're talking about. It's not just about the power being cut off, although that electricity is used directly at the front. The real support is crucial, first and foremost, of course. So in this, there is a direct positive aspect. I hope that there will be more such strikes there in the Bryansk and Belgorod regions. Let's target the Russian air defense systems there, which operate on a surface-to-surface principle. In other words, this is the deadly weapon that delivers strikes using Russian ballistic missiles. Against our settlements, against our cities and villages, does it have an effect? It does. And of course, preemptive strikes are also being carried out specifically at those locations where Russian air defense is stationed. In any case, there are far more advantages here. As for the covert mobilization, first of all, the formats of mobilization in Russia, the nomenclature is very extensive, let's say. We know the feeling of fear. It is present everywhere. Some are working off money, some are serving their prison sentences, and so on. Is Russia facing the choice of announcing a full and comprehensive mobilization? I think that choice is approaching them every day. The question is whether Putin will sense a personal danger in this, a threat to himself, to his regime. And in my opinion, a lot will depend on that. Therefore, I think that in the coming months we will witness the unfolding of these events, specifically regarding Russian mobilization and how the Russians will try to use it to directly influence events on the front line.